Watching the Super Bowl this past weekend is what got me thinking about this. Because look, the Kansas City Chiefs, they said it in the post game. That's a dynasty, winning three in the last 5 years, going to another Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs have kind of replaced the Patriots dynasty, right? There's a transition of dynasties there, and Tom Brady obviously had a little bit going on. Moving on to college football, Georgia. How close is Georgia to us tabbing it a dynasty? That's my question. I think that you can argue they're just one ring away this season, and you gotta call this thing a dynasty that Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs have been cooking up. You look at their history, right? I'm gonna reference Alabama's history. I mean, what other dynasties were there? Nebraska football, maybe. That's far away. That's far away in the past. Miami had a good little run there, early 2000s, late 90s, right? So, but sustained success is what creates a dynasty. Individual awards, right? You look and we list the things. What has Kirby Smart, or what is more specifically, what has Georgia, or actually broader, what has Georgia not accomplished while Kirby Smart has been the head coach in Athens? Not much. I mean, not much. They've got an undefeated season under their belt. They've got multiple national championships. They got a back-to-back run. They've got other New Year's Six bowl games. They've got multiple SEC titles. They've got several players that have won individual awards, like the John Mackey and the Dugurski and the Butkus, right? So they've got all sorts of players. They've got all sorts of All-Americans. They've produced more NFL players than any other school in the last few years, right? If we're talking about in terms of the NFL draft. So there's not much that Georgia hasn't accomplished while Kirby Smart has been at the helm. And I think that we're really, really, really close to calling this thing a dynasty. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here talking about, look, dynasty's on the line. Three-peat, that was something that was on the line. I think that if they would have three-peated, we would have felt really comfortable saying it there, right? And I think that sentiment goes into this year. I got a little bit more to say about that, but I want to plug two things. I'm going to try to be quick plugging these two things. Our newsletter first and foremost. Make sure you're checking that out. I have been slacking. I'm about to start writing, right? So I'm about to start writing a little bit more. Matt has been killing it over there, especially with all of the recruiting updates. But every single day in your inbox, if you give us your email address in the link that I've got in this description down below of this video, you get onto our mailing list. And in your inbox every single day are free stories, right, that anyone see. But you're also going to get premium stories. You're going to at least get to see a little bit of that. So make sure you're checking that out. You don't want to be missing out on everything Georgia. This has been a fruitful offseason, in my opinion. As you know, as much as these topics have ranged, it's been a fruitful offseason. So just like it's been a fruitful tenure for Georgia under Kirby Smart. Another thing that's been fruitful for us is Eco Poly. Make sure you're checking them out down below. I can't get enough of that outdoor furniture. Right? Maybe Dean and I will make some more outdoor furniture content for you guys. Moving back on. I think three rings in a short amount of time is when you can start claiming a dynasty. That's when you can at least have a serious conversation. I don't think that we've been allowed to have a serious... I haven't allowed it. Two national championships, as great as it is for Georgia and as spectacular as the last few years have been, two national championships I don't think adds up quite to be a full-on dynasty. Now, they've been building. It's been building and building and building over the course of the last few years, and obviously they've accomplished a lot more outside of just the two national championships. But I think, look, and the things that I'm gonna talk about, like, for example, the Sugar Bowl is nice in 19. The Peach Bowl is nice in 2020. This Orange Bowl, right? Those are all nice things. But this is about rings. It's sports. It's about national championships. It's about conference championships. It's about hardware, right? The hardware that matters, and the hardware that moves the needle are the national championship trophies. So that is what people are measured by at the end of the day when we review Nick Saban's career and we're talking about him in terms of the GOAT conversation. right? We're not going to talk about all of his Sugar Bowls and all of this and that. They're going to talk about those rings. They're going to talk about the ring in 2009. They're going to talk about the ring in 11. They're going to talk about the ring in 12. They're going to talk about, 15 and 20, right? Those are the things that they're going to talk about. With Kirby Smart, now, Nick Saban will be a little bit intertwined to the Kirby Smart story there a little bit and the rings that they prevented, but it will be about the rings. And so I think that if Georgia wins the national championship this coming year, this 2024 season, 2025 season, it also would be in Atlanta, a place that there's been mixed results in for the Georgia Bulldogs. But I think that 3 rings in a 4-year span, and in the third year where they didn't win that ring and people still viewed them as a playoff team, even though they didn't get in, right? I think that these last 4 years would have been enough to call it a dynasty. But let's not forget, Georgia almost won a national championship in 2017. So on top of this, there's another national championship appearance in there. Now, there was a 3-year gap, right? A Sugar Bowl loss, a Sugar Bowl win, and a Peach Bowl win in between that. But 2 New Year's Six trophies is nothing to be ashamed about in between that. But this thing really started in 2017 for Georgia. Obviously, 2016 his first year. But since 2017, they've lost the national postseason. This is what Georgia's lost since 2017. SEC championships to Bama, that's it. All right, we're not talking about the regular season, but I'll throw SEC championships in there because it's a part of the legacy as well. But 2017, Georgia got an SEC championship, lost a national championship. 2018, lost an SEC championship, lost a Sugar Bowl. So that not great. Right? That was kind of a step back year from the high that was 2017, also retooling that roster. And then you start to rebuild after the retool. 19 lost the SEC championship to maybe the best team we've ever seen in LSU, wins the Sugar Bowl. Then they're back on track. 2020 didn't compete for the SEC championship but win that Peach Bowl. And then it's an SEC championship loss against Bama. But then they win the Orange Bowl and they win the national championship. So there's two there. 22. They did a little trifecta and they went 15-0. They won 3 trophies: Peach Bowl, SEC championship, and national championship. And obviously lost the SEC championship. But there will be more SEC championships for Georgia to win in the future. It's going to be harder to get there. It is going to be harder for Georgia to get to the SEC championship. Now, the SEC championship is not the end-all, be-all for winning a national championship, and it really never was. Right? A couple of those years with the 14 playoff, they proved that it really never was. But for Georgia now, moving forward, like, for example, I've got the schedule pulled up. I talk about the schedule a lot. They wouldn't be playing Texas and Alabama and Auburn and Mississippi State, right? Like, it wouldn't be like that. Basically, what are you cutting out? Like, a typical Georgia SEC schedule would have been Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Florida, right? So those 6 teams. Well, which ones are getting replaced with what? South Carolina, let's put it this way. South Carolina's getting replaced with Ole Miss. Vanderbilt's getting replaced with Mississippi State. South Carolina, I'm starting to blank on that, and this exercise backfired on me because the way I did it was not very clean. But the point is, Texas and Alabama are on the schedule now this season instead of Vanderbilt and South Carolina. That is my point. That's my larger point with that. Ole Miss is on there instead of Missouri, right? I think Missouri, this time around is a really, really good team. But my point there is that it will be harder to get to the SEC championship now. It doesn't mean it'll be harder to win the SEC championship. It's always was something that was really hard to do, but getting there is going to be more difficult. So I think that I want to talk about the SEC championship at a little bit more in length in a video here in the next couple of days, but that's going to be harder to accomplish in a couple of ways. And in a sense, they might mean more than they did before. So that's my little teaser for something I'm going to talk about here in the next couple of mornings. I think we're 1 ring away. I got Nick Saban's thing pulled up. When did we start calling them a dynasty? They won 3 and 4 years. That's what's on the table for Georgia this year. They won 3 and 4 years between 2009 and 2012. Those 4 years, BCS National Championship, Capital One Bowl Championship, or win, and then 2 BCS championships in a row. So Georgia already did the back-to-back. They already did the outside huge bowl game, and now they can win a national championship again. And I think that we'd be remiss not to call it a dynasty. a conversation that Reese Davis and myself and a couple other reporters were having back the day before. That would have been the Ole Miss game, or whichever game Georgia. I'm blanking on which game College Game Day came down here for. I think it was the Ole Miss one. But the day before that, I mean, Reese Davis said it, that they were on track for an unprecedented dynasty. We would have been saying that if Georgia won the national championship this past year. But I think we're still going to say that if that's delayed a year, because 3 and 4 years and another appearance in like a 6 or 7 year span, that's calling for a dynasty. The number one classes, the near 6 wins, the regular season titles, the SEC titles, those all add to it too. That's what's brewing in Athens. It's one ring away. One ring away.